tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Hot temperatures and strong winds this long weekend causing several active blazes across the province to become even more aggressive.
We had 3 wildfires that were being held, and then due to the weather conditions, they are now out of control.
What it means for BC's wildfire season, and the BC Ferries saga continues. Staffing shortages cause more cancellations this weekend, leaving hundreds stranded.
I feel for everybody else that had to scramble to find places to stay because there's not a lot of places to stay.
Frustrated customers are demanding change. Plus, it's the last day of the peony fair, and you know what that means. Kids are heading back to class.
Kids are excited, and as parents, we're excited as well to get back into the swing of things.
Excitement for the whole family.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Anita is off tonight. While the end of summer is quickly approaching, hundreds of wildfires continue to burn across BC. As Eva Ugwen-Senge reports, cooler temperatures have helped in the fight against fires in the southern half of the province, but in the northwest, strong winds have fanned the flames, prompting more evacuation orders.
We're seeing very aggressive fire behavior on most of the fires.
Strong winds and dry conditions this long weekend are challenging firefighters in northern BC.
We had 3 wildfires that were being held, and then due to the weather conditions, they are now out of control once again, unfortunately.
2 fires around Lucas Lake are believed to have merged, meaning that fire could now be burning over 8,000 hectares.
We are very limited just because of the aggressive nature of that wildfire. We do not have crews on the ground actioning that wildfire. The fire was extremely aggressive.
The aggressive fire behavior in the north has forced residents to evacuate. The Wells Creek and Big Creek fires are burning out of control. The Cheslata Carrier Nation and the Regional District of Bulkley-Nechako both issued evacuation orders last night.
We had some of these fires so close to being under control or were under control, and we could have had them out. But the resources, obviously, when things flared up in the south, it's pull them there and put them in the priority areas, which is right. I mean, you have to do that.
Meanwhile, in interior BC, humidity is increasing and temperatures have fallen ever so slightly.
Precipitation and cooler weather has been allowing for crews to action fires effectively in the Kamloops and more southern regions of the province.
Residents evacuated from West Kelowna because of the McDougall Creek wildfire getting closer to a return home. Those who have lost their homes will be notified by Thursday at the latest. The McDougall Creek fire is still out of control and burning 13,000 hectares. Officials say it will take more than a slight cool down in temperatures before large fires start burning.
Our seasonal forecast came out for September, and it's showing generally drier and warmer conditions for the month of September.
The fire season does go from April 1st to March 31st every year, but we know that there is significantly less fires in the fall and winter. But we still have 434 active wildfires, and that's a significant amount.
With more heat and little rain in the forecast, firefighters are staying focused on the fires at hand before predicting when the fire season will end. Eva Ugwen-Senge, CBC News, Vancouver.
After a steady start to the long weekend travel, BC Ferries once again ran into troubled waters. Multiple sailings were cancelled over the weekend due to staffing issues, a problem that has plagued the ferry service for months. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, customers are fed up and are calling for change.
On Friday, BC Ferries appeared to be all set for the influx of passengers on Labor Day long weekend. Preparations were made and passengers were reminded to book ahead. For a while, things even looked steady, but for many passengers, this didn't last long.
When we arrived and I seen the ferry sitting there, I was like, this doesn't look good.
4 sailings were cancelled Saturday evening between Sunshine Coast and Powell River, leaving hundreds stranded.
I also had to scramble to find places to stay because there's not a lot of places to stay.
Greg McCann was lucky. He took the ferry earlier in the day.
So had we not done that, it would have been very debatable as to whether we would have been able to get to Vancouver International Airport to pick up our 2 kids.
BC Ferries says the cancellations were due to staffing shortages.
Unfortunately, one of our crew members had an emergency as they were coming to work. So we did have to cancel the later sailings on the Earls Coast Saltry Bay run.
But some are not convinced.
I totally accept ferries don't run because of maybe maintenance or because of bad weather. Everybody can live with that. Staffing issues is bad management.
McCann says it's time the staffing issues are resolved.
I'm stunned beyond belief that people like the Minister of Transport and people like that are not wading in on it. I am absolutely stunned that people like the CEO of BC Ferries has not waded in on it.
As of this morning, a total of 8 ferry sailings have been cancelled between the Sunshine Coast and Powell River, marking the end of one of the busiest weekends of the summer. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Interior Health says a doctor shortage has led to the unexpected and temporary closure of the South Okanagan General Hospital Emergency Department in Oliver for the second time this summer. Residents who live in the area will be without emergency services from 6 o'clock tonight until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Those in need of medical care will have to go to Penticton Regional Hospital, about a 35-minute drive away. For many, Labor Day weekend marks the start of the school year. And this year, families in one of BC's fastest growing communities are receiving increased support with a new elementary school and childcare centre in Coquihalla. It's set to open its doors tomorrow. Premier David Eby was on hand this morning welcoming students to the new space. The Coast Salish Elementary School has space for 430 students and has a childcare centre that can serve about 50 children from about 2 years old to school age. Meanwhile, construction has begun on replacing Moody Elementary School, which is in need of improved building safety and seismic upgrades. That school is expected to open in 2025, accommodating an additional 385 students. It will also have a daycare space. Amid the good news, the Premier was pressed on the ongoing teacher shortage in BC. Eby says the province is looking to diversify hires to help meet demand.
We're looking to internationally train teachers to recognize their credentials and get them into the classroom across the province. So yes, there is a challenge getting teachers, but there's challenges across many areas of hiring in British Columbia to find the people we need because we're growing so quickly. Teaching is no exception.
According to the BC Teachers Federation, the labour shortage could impact the amount of services students and families receive this school year, including educational assistance for students with special needs. Back to school is not just an event for the kids, it also involves the whole family, something parents and guardians know well. Our Philip O'Reara spoke to families enjoying the last day at the peony to find out what Labor Day weekend means to them.
For many, the last day of the peony signifies the end of summer, and this year, thousands of people decided to make the most of it.
Today's the last day of the peony. How do you feel?
Nervous.
Why are you nervous?
Because I just love the peony and I enjoy the rides a lot.
We actually got here right at open, and we went right to Hunky Bill's and got our breakfast, and then we just came out of the Super Dog Show.
For most parents, the last day of the peony also means the start of the school year.
Can't wait.
You prepared?
Looking forward to school starting. Get them back out of the house. Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're getting back into it. So back into school starting, sports starting. Kids are excited, and as parents, we're excited as well. Get back into the swing of things.
With a house, with a car. The peony says this is the first time the fair has fully returned since the pandemic began. Despite a slow start to the season due to wildfires impacting travel and weather conditions, organizers say families still came out in droves.
Last year we did about 529,000 guests through the fair. We'll be significantly above that this year. The Labor Day weekend we do 30% of our overall attendance, so we'll see where we get to today.
The final concert of the fair isn't just the last of the season. It's the final concert the current amphitheatre will host before it's torn down and construction begins for its replacement. Philip O'Reara, CBC News, Vancouver.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a first look at the weather. Darius, are we expecting to see some cooler temperatures throughout the week?
Yes, it does seem like pretty much what we have right now with these cooler and relatively not unsettled, but a bit cloudy conditions. Those are the temperatures will continue into the end of this week, but we're going to get a bit sunnier, so that should be nice. In terms of the fire danger, we heard earlier experts talking about what we can expect over the next while and what caused this really elevated fire danger in the north over the weekend. Those gusty winds, those higher than usual temperatures. Fortunately, that situation does seem to be improving. We're seeing those winds come down, those temperatures coming down for sure. We were seeing temperatures close to 30, which is very unusual for northern BC. Meanwhile, we've stayed fairly low in the south, but as we see that clearing trend, those temperatures staying low in the mid-20s for the southern interior, but clearing up into sunnier, drier conditions, it might not be the best situation further south. So today we saw those temperatures sticking around the mid-20s. We saw rain pass through parts of the southern interior, but not all the places where we would have wanted to see that rain. Heading into tomorrow, we can expect similar temperatures as today with those mid-20s probably, but we see that as unsettled conditions as well. So expect, some rain in some parts of the southern interior and further up north. And here in Vancouver, we see more or less what we were talking about. Oh, there we go. More or less what we were talking about. Potential for a little bit of rain tomorrow, but very unlikely in the morning. And then we clear up for a very sunny week ahead.
Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
1 year later, members of the James Smith Cree Nation remember Canada's worst ever mass stabbing and the 11 people who were killed. More on that story after the break. The Sikh community marked one of its holiest days of the year, in Abbotsford yesterday. As Eva Yugwen Senj reports, the gathering was an opportunity for celebration and to highlight more serious issues the community is grappling with.
Known as Nagar Kirtan, this Sunday marked one of the most important religious anniversaries for Sikhs.
So today we're celebrating the Holy Scripture. The Guru Granth Sahib Ji was written on this, it was compiled on this day.
Nagar Kirtan honors the anniversary of the opening of the sacred text of the Sikh religion. For 13-year-old Harbin Singh, the text has a special significance.
I'm a baptized Sikh. In the Sikh tradition, I took Amrit. After reading the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the Holy Scripture, it's like led me to my pathway and to my where my direction is going.
Nagar Kirtan is also an opportunity for BC's Sikh diaspora to come together.
We are living far away from our home country, so we should unite and we should celebrate togetherness of our community.
We are enjoying it, we are loving it, everything is so good, the weather is perfect, the people are perfect.
Or to show off their finest celebratory clothing, or even to fill their bellies with good food.
I don't know what this is, but it's really good.
It's good? You like it?
Yeah, it's good.
Put the masala.
Potato.
Okay, I put it inside.
Put it inside, yeah.
And then...
And the water, sweet and sour water.
Oh, it's leaking a little bit.
Yes.
And then the whole thing.
Yeah, put the whole thing's in your mouth though. There you go. That's what we call golgappa and also we call pani puri.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Delicious. But among the celebratory atmosphere, there are also more serious issues on display, like calls for justice after the assassination of a Surrey temple leader in June, and reminders about the unofficial referendum vote for an independent Sikh state in India. The gathering was also an opportunity to help loved ones abroad.
Punjab's been really devastated by Punjab flood. The floods came and it's been about 2 months. They've been really devastating. A lot of people have been displaced.
A message of unity and helping others present throughout the celebrations. Eva Yugwen Senj, CBC News, Vancouver.
With fire crews making progress battling the flames in parts of the Northwest Territories, essential workers are now returning to Yellowknife. The government is taking steps to ensure their drive back is a safe one.
If folks are driving back, the one thing the territorial government will first off make sure that the highway is safe. So please check the GNWT's website for more information on whether the highway is open or closed. There is still the fire in the southern part of our territory that may impact the highway. So likely smoky conditions. So just making sure that you're driving to the conditions.
The essential workers will make sure the city is safe for other residents to return. That's expected to happen on Wednesday. More than 20,000 people fled the area last month. Government officials are still monitoring hundreds of hotspots in the territories. Union leaders are celebrating workers on this Labor Day. Parades are being held across the country to celebrate the accomplishments of workers. And as Thomas Diagla reports, the rallies are calling attention to growing demands from workers in the face of rising inflation.
Pay your workers while we're work! For many Canadians, Labor Day means a little more this year. After the so-called Summer of Strikes, parades across the country had workers marching with added resolve.
The cost of everything has gone up and workers are left behind.
From BC port workers to Manitoba Liquor Mart staff, the summer saw union members at multiple workplaces walk off the job, then reach new deals.
I think the message is that if the government and employers want labor stability, they need to make sure that they give workers what they deserve.
Now, Ontario auto workers are among those who've approved new strike mandates, raising the prospect of heated talks through the fall.
And I think people are going to strengthen because they're going to see the corporate elite eroding away what we have.
With inflation pushing up the cost of living and wages often not keeping pace, experts wonder whether a drive to unionize is coming to more unlikely places.
Consider Toronto area Metro grocery stores. Set to reopen Tuesday after a month-long closure, workers claimed a rare win for private sector lower wage earners when their strike drove the company to offer better pay.
Can that translate into a wave of, say, union organizing that's successful? It's possible. Periods of high inflation bring about more labor unrest.
It doesn't always go smoothly. Unionized commercial actors have been effectively locked out for a year and a half, while after months of failed bargaining, workers at Ontario public broadcaster TVO have walked off the job too. They're members of the Canadian Media Guild, which also represents some CBC staff.
Where strikes are concerned, you can never think that the solution is going to know when the solution is going to arrive.
For some, the gamble paid off, emboldening unions to consider more action and push for greater demands. Thomas Diagla, CBC News, Toronto.
1 year ago today, the James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan became one of the scenes of Canada's worst ever mass stabbings. 11 people were killed. All but one of them was the member of the First Nation. 17 others were injured. And as Sam Samson reports, the community is still working to come to terms with the tragedy.
Molding the minds of the next generation is what Mallory Burns dreams of.
I see a lot of potential in the youth. I really do. They just need a safe place.
This summer, Burns worked with children and teens in her community of James Smith Cree Nation.
A lot of adults in their life are more focused on their own trauma that they're going through. They forget their youth, and they need somebody that can help them.
On September 4th last year, Miles Sanderson killed 11 people and injured 17 others. After an almost 4-day manhunt, Sanderson was arrested, but RCMP say he went into medical distress and died. Many in James Smith believe pervading mental health issues and addictions led to the attacks. Burns says the pain is so widespread, her entire First Nation needs crisis intervention training so young people always have help when they need.
I think those skills are very important when talking to youth because they need to feel important because our community is hurting now, more so than it has ever been hurting.
Last year, Ottawa promised more than $42 million to help. Local health officials say they'll use about $3 million to start planning a new wellness centre. Health Director Michael Marion says step one is getting input from residents.
We only get one chance at this, and we got to make sure we do it right and get the community involved, get their input so that we're on the right track.
The Saskatchewan Coroner Service promised mental health supports for 2 inquests next year. One details the day of the attacks, that's in January. The other, dissecting Sanderson's in-custody death, has been pushed to February or March, prolonging details some say they need to properly grieve. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
Summer doesn't officially end until later this month, but there's a bit of a chill in the air that says otherwise. After the break, we'll check out a Vancouver art exhibition exploring the meaning of summer.
Scientists in British Columbia say it's like taking a trip to a long-lost world. They've traveled to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean to study some huge reefs made up entirely of ancient sea sponges. The reefs are growing just off the Queen Charlotte Islands, and they are the only living example of a type of sponge colony that used to rule the ocean floor. Christina Lawand has the story.
Plunge deep, deep down off the northern BC coast, and it's like plunging back in time. Here on the bottom of the ocean floor, scientists have discovered a rare snapshot of life, much like it was in the Jurassic Age, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, well before man or mammal were even a blip on the evolutionary chart.
The sponge reefs that we've found are found nowhere else in the world. This is the only example that anybody has found anywhere.
Scientists first detected something big below the sea back in 1984.
That's me climbing into the...
Then Conway and his team went to check it out for themselves. What they found? An incredible world of sponge.
They're huge in area, the size of cities, structures that are 6 stories high, completely composed of sponges growing one on the other over the last 9,000 years.
European scientists and paleontologists are especially excited about this discovery. That's because 65 million years ago, much of Europe looked like this.
You can travel from Romania on the Black Sea all the way to Portugal, and you'll find sponge reefs made by the same kind of sponges that we see off our coast today.
That's back when much of Europe was submerged by seawater. Now those same sponge reefs are large fossil mounds, often used to build castles on in Germany.
If you're looking for a sponge reef, look for a castle, and normally there's a sponge reef underneath that castle.
For biologists, it's not just the history, but the sponge itself that's so fascinating.
Its architecture, its glass architecture is stunning. We look at it and we wonder, you know, who could have designed, how does a cell have the programming to design such stunning skeletal structures?
For scientists, it's a lost world that's been found, a piece of the present that's a key to understanding the past. Christina Lawand, CBC News, Sydney, British Columbia.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. September is Literacy Month. Have fun and support the cause by joining CBC Vancouver's Dan Burrett at Dakota's Team Trivia Challenge on September 27th. For tickets, register at dakota.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
Darius Madavi is back with a little something different. Darius, we're not talking weather right now. You're going to put your science hat on for a moment to talk to us a little bit about recording music straight from people's brains?
That's right, Janella. So what I want to talk about today is something that could really help people who are experiencing issues with stroke or paralysis, because more than a decade ago, patients undergoing brain surgery volunteered to be part of a whole host of studies. And one of those involved listening to a famous song, so scientists could study which parts of the brain are associated with music. But now, researchers have reconstructed the song that patients were listening to using only the electrical activity in their brains. Now, take a listen and see if you can guess what song it is. So, got your guess locked in? Here's the original snippet.
All it was just a brick in the wall.
Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall. Am I correct?
You got it.
A bit of a different adaptation of the song that we're used to hearing, but really, really interesting stuff. I feel like this could be a bit of a breakthrough for speech technologies. Can you tell us how?
Absolutely. For people who have experienced stroke or paralysis, this is a huge deal. So if you can't speak, most current methods of communication are unable to capture the non-word elements of speech, the more musical components. So think of the late Stephen Hawking, the robotic voice that doesn't communicate emphasis or intonation or emotion. That being said, a major breakthrough came just a few years ago when neuroscientists found a way to use brain-machine interfaces to allow people to communicate. It uses a different pattern of electrodes than the one in this music-based study near the motor centers of the brain to determine what facial movements the patient is attempting to make and translating those into words. The main limitation for both applications of both breakthroughs is that the process is in the early stages and quite invasive. Take a look at this photo, which shows the electrodes placed directly on patients' brains. So we're a long way off from seeing the widespread applications of this research, but one day it might allow nonverbal patients to not just choose their words, but also how those words are said.
Very interesting. Thanks, Darius. What does the end of summer feel like to you? A group of Vancouver artists have created an exhibition called Salt of Summer, which is available to view by appointment with the goal of capturing those feel-good summer vibes. Take a look.
My name is Lydia Cecilia.
My name is Emiko Mizukami.
My name is Emily Cowan. Emiko and me create this show, and it's all about summer and summer feelings.
The end of the summer feels really nostalgic. It feels like, okay, the September is going to start, and then we want to create some memorable moments together.
And we wanted to create something, and our own show. And we invited our friend Emily, and we thought all of us, we can say different things about these feelings around summer.
Lydia and Emiko, who share a studio here at August Studios, approached me with this really exciting idea of putting together a three-woman art show about sort of the end of the summer and those sort of like last kind of sad, melancholy, bittersweet days of the season. We were all going to bring our own individual twist to that.
Mine is oil paint and very colorful, muted this time for this show. And Emily is very vivid, more like illustrative work. And then Lydia works with a very different medium, paper. But somehow when we are together, it feels really cohesive, and that's what we really like.
That's one of the more interesting things about group shows, is that so many different artists bring something so different to the theme.
Towards the end of the summer, although the sky is still high, the color's still bright, all of my painting has this really muted colors to it. Inside of this window, the season's changing in you already.
Absolutely beautiful. That is your show for this Labor Day Monday. Thank you so much for watching. For news anywhere, anytime, download our free CBC Gem app or head to our website, cbc.ca/BC. Have a great night.